고 생겨도 다운도 된다. 캠페라라야. 먹을 겨울에 아니 개미. 단다 foreign minister 때 바지 빌리고 있어. 다운도 된다. 추주 숨다 가마 쉽주된 데래샤 안타야 되마. 다 바스도 시발라라서. 아니 야야네 저기 좀 따다다 가르가 좀 거는 동동 좋다 따다 쇼게 때리스다 남 거셈도 오 다음주에 무슨 얘기가 필요 없이 딱 고대래 아니 근데 차단 그래다 바스 고대래 스타간다 되라 어떻게 제도 세스테 되시다 차단 바스 고대래 야야다 인데르시 남람도 탄다 데 버스 다 버스나 레토 어떻게 미디어 도지 먼저 캔베라를 라이는 캔베라 다시 네 텐수 어때 아니야도 텐도다 버스 다 저거 차지 좀 차기 싶은 거 같아. 차가 좀 다 대차도 스트레스래서 히후 어디?
여기다.
준지 겨가 요만 캐릭터 있어. ला तातो देखे भी क्या लेते रीदा
ये के ला पास में ये ला
신장이야 지금 그래래샤니 그거만 고치래샤니 여기니 신잡도 체니 사이트 같은 신장이
Mandarin. There's Mandarin.
Mandarin. Independent natural the China
全身放松，松而不懈，体踏两处，滑流状态，下额微收。Hello. Hello. 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 Yep. I think we're good. Can everyone come together here and gather around? Hello. 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 Hello.
Sound good? Yep, okay, cool. Hello. 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 Good morning, everybody. I might switch mics. I think your one's louder. Is that one louder? Yeah, I think that one's louder, yeah? Better? Hello. 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 This one's louder? Okay, we'll stick to this one. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
What an incredible turn up. Thank you for coming today on behalf of the ACT Tibetan community. We want to welcome all of our friends from the Tibetan community in Sydney, from our Uyghur friends, from our friends from the Chinese community, our Hong Kong friends, and our friends from the Falun Gong and Chinese dissidents. Today we are here to say to the Australian government and to the Chinese Foreign Minister, human rights are not for sale. Human rights are not for sale.
Human rights are not for sale.
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
Free East Turkestan!
Free Turkestan!
Free Hong Kong!
Free Hong Kong!
Free China!
Free China!
Our Foreign Minister has invited the Chinese Foreign Minister here, and shame on them. Shame! Wang Yi, the Chinese Foreign Minister, is here to meet the Australian government only because the Australian government has done nothing about human rights. Shame!
Shame!
They've done nothing about Tibet. Shame!
Shame!
They've done nothing about East Turkestan. Shame!
Shame!
They've done nothing about Hong Kong.
Shame!
They've done nothing for the Falun Gong.
Shame!
This is their reward, this visit. Australia has rolled out the red carpet to the oppressor, to the colonizer. Shame!
Shame!
But let's be clear, this government is only accepting this reward because the Chinese government blackmailed and bullied Australia. Shame!
Shame!
Capitulating and bending to this Chinese government is not in our interest. It's not in Australia's interest and does nothing for the people that are being oppressed. On behalf of the Canberra Tibetan community, and on behalf of everyone here, I want to acknowledge that we are here on the lands of the Ngunnawal and Ngambri people. We, as Indigenous peoples of East Turkestan, of Tibet, and of Hong Kong, and of China, we empathise and we acknowledge the traditional owners of this land and the struggles that they face. I want to also say that our community has met the Foreign Minister 3 times over the past year. She has listened to us and she has heard us and she has done nothing. It is not enough to express concern about genocide. The Foreign Minister supported the establishment of sanctions laws, and she has sanctioned Burma, Belarus, Iran, Russia. We call on the government, we call on the Foreign Minister to apply the same standard to the Chinese government and sanction Chinese government officials responsible for human rights abuses. If we do not apply a consistent standard and only apply these sanctions when it's convenient, we risk our integrity and the integrity of all sanctions regimes. If I can speak briefly on Tibet. Tibet is a militarily occupied nation. With military occupation comes colonial policies implemented at crushing our identity. There is no religious, political, or any other freedom in Tibet. But most alarming is the fact that over 80%, 4 out of 5 Tibetan children have now been removed from their families and from their communities. I know my Uyghur friends will immediately recognise that policy, because the Chinese government is applying that same policy inside East Turkestan. And I know Hong Kong friends here will recognize that style of policy as the Chinese government radically transforms the Hong Kong education system so that it can eradicate Cantonese and it can eradicate the Hong Kong people's history and the Hong Kong people's identity. Our foreign minister has a catchy slogan when it comes to China. She says, cooperate where we can, disagree where we must, and engage in our national interest. It's a catchy slogan, Foreign Minister. But what does it really mean? The destruction of Hong Kong? The oppression of the Falun Gong? Do you not disagree on those things with the Chinese government? Is it in our national interest to go back to a business as usual approach on China that has resulted in greater repression in China, Tibet, East Turkestan, Hong Kong? Is that in our national interest?
No.
So I want to now acknowledge that we've been joined by one of our really great friends, friend of all oppressed people, a friend of the Tibetan people for many, many years, on behalf of the Greens and behalf of, and also as Attorney General of the ACT, Shane Rattenbury. Please give him a warm welcome.
Well, thank you. Good morning, friends. It's humbling to join you here today on this important moment of protest and of standing up and of asserting of the important rights of the people of Tibet and other oppressed peoples of the region. I want to welcome particularly the members of the Canberra Tibetan community. Some I know already, and it's great to see you here today. But I especially welcome those who have travelled to Canberra to be here for this moment. We appreciate your solidarity. I suspect for you Sydney folks, you got up very early this morning to get on a bus, and we really thank you for taking the time to come here today to show your support, to stand up and to raise your flags to remind the world of what is happening in Tibet. I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians, and in Ngunnawal language we say Yuma, Darawa Nuna, Darawa Nunawa. This means hello, this is Ngunnawal country in traditional language. I note that we've just passed the 10th of March, only a few days ago, which of course commemorates the Tibetan Uprising Day. Since the 1959 Tibetan Uprising, China's colonialism of Tibet has continued. Over 1 million Tibetans are said to have been killed, and as we've just heard, we are seeing millions of Tibetan children being taken from their families, being put in we of course also see significant attempts by the Chinese government to undermine and marginalise the Dalai Lama and legitimise his crucial leadership in cultural role for Tibet, and that is a shameful thing to do. We see freedom for thought, for religion, for culture, and a continuation of respect for Tibetan culture. The ACT Greens stand with you, as do my Greens colleagues here in Federal Parliament, in your efforts to highlight the situation in Tibet, to demand respect for human rights in Tibet. And my colleague Senator Janet Rice asked me to give her apologies today. I saw her just last night. She was sorry she couldn't be here today, but they're busy on the hill. But as many of you may know, Senator Rice went to Dharamsala in April 2023 to meet with the Central Tibetan Administration, and she had an audience with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. I know Janet was deeply affected by that trip. She was very touched by the warm hospitality that she received, and more importantly, very moved by the plight of Tibet, by the lots of ignorance of the rest of the world of what is happening in Tibet, and came home with a real fire in her belly to make sure that she could distinguish Australian Red Council. Say a few words, Greg.
Thanks everyone for coming down today at such short notice. I think this is a really great crowd. You should all be really proud of yourself for being able to come today. So I am Dr. Zoe Bedford from the Australian Tibet Council, and I just want to acknowledge that we're on the lands of Ngunnawal and Yandal people. There's no freedom in Tibet under Chinese occupation. Just last month, 1,000 Tibetans were arrested en masse for peaceful protests. These Tibetans included Tibetans monks and others arrested. They were protesting for their land. They were protesting for their home. China is going to build yet another hydropower dam that will destroy their entire village, including Buddhist monasteries that have been in Tibet for centuries. Centuries-old Buddhist monasteries with precious religious and murals and Tibetan Buddhist religious things. And this is disgusting. China has no respect for Tibetan culture. They've got no... So we here...
Zoe, I think at this time it makes sense to sing the Tibetan national anthem. I'll invite some members of our community up the front. Tibet has a long and proud history of being an independent nation, and I think the anthem signifies that.
Pégalo!
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 다 샴라 시드니 조조 오스트레일리아 개원 조조 천지라 데스페르나 소시스나나. I'd like to invite Tsering Awala from the Sydney community, the president of the Sydney Tibetan community, as well as the president of the Australian National Tibetan Community Association. Tsering.
참마쇼가들래. Good morning, everyone. 아니 드링아 쉬어라 지간이로 지대 가렌스나 다나쇼게 지도 제발아 같이 재미 지를로 정와이데 주 다나 파르멘트 나라 레차유스라 제사는 아주 딩올고 가르치가 레르스나 단디체랑 아주 뻔 나로라야 뭐 그리존다 게이 아니 곰바 강다 도도디 재미게 답범이 싸메 따야기 링거 페기요라 데라 손장 주디 고시하게 내돈 찍래야 돼 삼구도 지디 가르서는 하나도 뽑아서 릭바 좀 거야 이 땅지 책을 삼구도 니위 차랑 암수 이름대 빵두기 깝들이야 아주 야버리 진도 소빙원이 버른데서 각초가 두시네 당 중에 뭐가 캠보여야기 니 땅 ये तक शिया जी करे सन तंदा लिंग द तंजेरी तोले दोंगो ले गाना शब्द की स्टेजे दिमाई ना मातो दोनिया धावें जे दिमाई ले ता तोदे जामी सब ता दिना लो न्यों दे योनी की मिरिखा की नारा थामा न्यमदे चिने लिंग पे थव्या दी नारा तो माऊ बाला चमदी तेंदे 용들의 상무도 땡한테 이치 대체장한테 지초를 상무도 길치네 아니 나라도 남이야 냠들다 나라도 냠들 그 돕시 디기 나라도 좀디 텐데 레기를 상무도 안 다던디 여러분체 그 지자위 된자 아니 나도 복게 된 타다 아니 보통 제니 나라도 드린게 지등용료치 배니게 나바 타마로기 아니 상든 저비하게 떠나나 문제 시고요 Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Long life! Long life! Long life! 1 year free Tibet! 1 year free Tibet! 1 year free Tibet! 1 year free Tibet! 1 year free Tibet!
Why you free Taiwan? Why you free Taiwan? Why you free Taiwan? Why you free Taiwan? Why you free Hong Kong? 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 Why you free Tajikistan? Why you free Tajikistan?
Thank you, Chunzila. And a big thank you to our friends from the Tibetan community in Sydney. I think we need to just think and speak a little bit about how this visit is being conducted. This is the foreign minister of the largest country on earth, our supposedly most important trading partner, and he comes in secret. He comes quietly, with no formal announcement. It's just leaked to the media. Human rights, not for sale!
Human rights not for sale!
And our communities, the impact of the Chinese government's policies in Tibet impact here. Our mobile communications network and buy our politicians and undermine our democracy. But our communities are connected back home. You know, there's Tibetans here who've had family members who have been political prisoners. There are political prisoners here amongst us, former political prisoners. There are people here whose children, our Uyghur, our East Turkestan friends, they have the same experience. The Chinese government is applying the same cruel colonial policies inside East Turkestan as they are in Tibet. And our communities are now growing closer and closer together, working closer and closer together, building empathy and understanding for each other's causes. So I want to say to our Uyghur friends, our East Turkestan friends here today, we are not free until you are free. You'll have to excuse me, I'll get emotional through the day. As I look out amongst us, and I know the stories behind these faces. I have a Uyghur friend who's not here today, and his family is broken. He can't speak to his family back in Uzbekistan, his family members that are missing, and here in Australia, they can't live their lives. You know, tragedy is imbued and sort of unextractable. You can't live your life normally here, enjoy all the freedoms here, when you fear for your family back home. So, it's real for us, yeah? It's real for the Tibetans and for the East Turkestan, and also for our Hong Kong and Chinese friends as well, of course. But as I said, our communities are growing closer, and our community considers Nurgle a really good close friend. So I'd like you to give Nurgle from the Uyghur community of Canberra a big welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for giving us such opportunity and talk about the key issue, what's human rights. When we talk about human rights, I must say warmly welcome to Ngunnawal land, to everyone, and the close and the far, all the way to South Australia, Victoria, and as well as our New South Wales, like brothers and sisters. We standing here because of the democracy, because of freedom of speech. If we didn't enjoy the every moment of the freedom of speech in this country, we wouldn't be standing here. And yet, on the other hand, opposite end, is the most ferocious, absolutely brutal regime exists on this earth. CCL linked to China. The foreign minister actually sitting inside, trying to deal or sign the biggest trade deal with Australian government. And we time to time we always speak up.
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
Free Tibet!
And the CCP!
And CCP!
Without ending CCP, there's no freedom. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, my friends, especially Tibetan friends. I'm as a leader of the Uyghur community from Sydney. I'm really inspired by your spirit, by your courage. You came, so many of you guys, together in front of the Parliament House, and to stand for freedom for Tibet, and also to stand against the Wang Yi's visit, the dictators. And most of you guys are the Tibetans, and in fact Tibetans and the East Turkestan people, the Uyghur people, we have been independent for many centuries, but in 1949 we lost our country to the Chinese dictators, Chinese Communist Party with the Soviet Union, Stalin, also another dictator. And in 1959 you lost your country to the ruthless the dictator's government, CCP. Since then, your people and our people came under the pressure, and we suffered so much pressure and also discrimination, and also in the last 7 years in East Turkestan, the first time the Chenjengo, the Tibetan secretary, Chinese secretary appointed by the Chinese government and stayed in touch Tibet and controlled the Tibet so harshly, came to our region and then started the genocide policies in 2017 until now. Millions of people, of our people, were separated from the families, children separated, and millions, more than 3 million people were incarcerated in concentration camps. It's something like you can't imagine, inconceivable fact in this century. So our people is suffering a lot in the last several years, and in person myself, I lost my families, and I don't have any contact with my families, and even I couldn't bring my wife from East Turkestan because she was given a grant. She was granted by the Australian government permanent visa, but before her visa was approved, her passport was confiscated, and then in the last several years I couldn't even bring my families. That means our people, your Tibetan people, are suffering under the dictator CCP a lot. Now actually I don't have any preparation for Tibet speech in this important gathering, and actually I asked my secretary, Mehmet.
There are many people also who could not get permission to come here to join us in this very important protest. I would like to start with a few points that our president of Australian Uyghur Association. So, traveling, uniting with family, or visiting family and friends is the most probably fundamental right of human beings. But even this is not possible in China. Now, we gathered here to protest the visit of Chinese Foreign Minister to Australia. We oppose his visit because China has been carrying out human rights violations against Uyghurs, Tibetans, Hong Kongers, and Inner Mongolians. As you have known, starting from 1949, Chinese Communist Party invaded East Turkestan and Tibet and other regions, and since then they have been oppressing the people. Many people are killed. Those people who have strong national or religious identity have disappeared, and business people and all that disappeared. The rest have been unfortunately forced to indoctrinate and be loyal to the communism.
New Zealand Alliance for Victims of the Chinese Communist Regime. It's important to remember that as a Tibetan, it's not that I invite Professor Chong Feng Yi to say a few words here today. A big round of applause, please.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm the president of the Australian and New Zealand Alliance for the Victims of Chinese Communist Regime. As the organization name stands, it represents actually all the communities, including Tibetans, Uyghurs, Hong Kongers, Taiwanese, and Chinese, who are victimized by this evil regime. We all know that the Chinese Communist regime is the product of the Chinese nation. We feel fundamental shame about it. And actually, on any of these occasions, I offer my sincere apology to all the communities, especially Tibetans, Uyghurs, and Hongkongers, who are subject to this such kind of disaster, humiliation, invasion, and persecution. Many people lost their life. We all know that for 70 years of rule in China, this regime claims at least 80 million innocent lives. They have engaged in systematic violation of human rights, including freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of association, and all the rights you all enjoy here in Australia. So therefore, Australian government should never invite Wang Yi to visit this country. We all know that actually Australians should stand firm with this democratic alliance against this evil regime, rather than offer this platform to pursue what they call stabilization of Australian-China relations.
With the Chinese Communist Party around the world, but particularly in relation to Australia, we are seeing unprecedented